And I'm gonna show you not only the differences between them, but also how to really select the right one for you. And as always, I have placed a link in the description down below to each one of these dash cams in case you guys wanna get one for yourself, and a link to my original review video for them if you guys wanna see them in more detail. So first, let's get familiar with the dash cams. The first one is the A510, and right off the bat, I will tell you that this is the most affordable in the lineup, and it does include a front and rear camera. Next up is gonna be the Omni dashcam. Now this dashcam is quite interesting because the bottom of it can actually turn, is motorized, and that allows it to do a couple different things that a normal dashcam cannot do, and this one is gonna sit somewhere in the middle as far as price. Then we have the top of the line A810. Now this bad boy can record in 4K and includes a front and rear camera, and has a couple of other interesting features such as motion detection. Now there are some similarities across the dash cams. All three of them support GPS. Now the GPS on dash cams is used to record the coordinates and the speed of where we are traveling at. Now this could be potentially helpful if you had an accident and you needed additional evidence such as the location of where it happened or the speed that you were actually traveling at. All three of them also support ADAS, which is Advanced Driver Assistance. Now this feature is found on newer vehicles, but now you can bring that feature into your older vehicle with one of these dash cams, and that feature basically can alert you if the vehicle in front of you has started to move, if you have not noticed, or if you're about to depart from your lane, or if you potentially are gonna impact the vehicle in front of you, and a couple other things. Additionally, all three of these dashcams support park mode, which is park monitoring, which can potentially allow you to monitor your vehicle when you're away from it, and if somebody were to impact the car, you'll have evidence of it. And all three of them also support an app because they have Wi-Fi. Now for these two guys, the A510 and the A810, using the app, it's pretty much almost optional. You can set this up without the app and they're gonna work totally independent of it. Now, using the app is convenient if you're trying to download the videos from the dashcam if you don't have access to a computer. If you have access to a computer, the memory card can be popped off, you can put it in the PC and download the videos that way. However, the Omni dashcam, because of its special features, I think it is best used with the app. Now, there are 3 buttons on the side, so you could potentially just set it up and use it like that, but really I think you're gonna be missing out in a lot of functionality if you choose not to use the app for this. So if you're okay using an app, the Omni is gonna be a good choice for you. However, if you don't like to use apps, I'm gonna say skip the Omni and stay with one of these ones, either the A510 or the A810. And going back to the topic of monitoring your vehicle when it is parked, all 3 of them we know support parking mode using the standard Hardwire kit. However, all 3 of them also support the optional 70 mi 4G Hardwire kit. Now this kit, the 4G, is different than a standard Hardwire kit because this is connected to the cloud, and it can potentially allow you to remotely monitor your vehicle when you're away from it, something that normal Wi-Fi dashcams cannot do on their own. Now this does have its own additional cost because now you'll have to use a SIM card, which has a data cost, in order for you to be able to use it, but you do have the choice of using a standard Hardwire kit or a 4G Hardwire kit with all 3 of them. And we know that the A510 is gonna be the most affordable choice out of this lineup, but what if you don't have restrictions on your budget? Then I'm gonna say pick from either the Omni or pick from the A810. Now, if you only need one camera, this guy is gonna be the way to go. If you need 2 cameras or if you need 4K recording, then the A810 is gonna be what you want. And let's also talk about some important details. My choice for most affordable, which is the A510, still packs quite a bit of punch in terms of performance because it is equipped with the Sony IMX Starvis 2 sensor, a sensor that has impressed me quite a bit because it's a giant leap from the prior sensor in older dashcams. Now this dashcam can record at a maximum of 2K at a resolution of 2592 by 1944, which in some cases some people refer to it as 2.5K. And as far as the rear camera, it is not waterproof. It's meant to be installed on the inside of the vehicle, and it is gonna record in full high definition. Let's also talk about parking monitoring. This dashcam is gonna support two types of monitoring. First off, it's gonna be impact detection, meaning if there is an impact, there is gonna be video recorded by the dashcam. The second way of monitoring the vehicle is gonna be with time-lapse. Now, time-lapse is different than normal video. We know time-lapse is compressed video, so you can select either compressed video or you can select impact detection. And finally, as far as memory card capacity, the maximum that this dashcam is able to accept is 256 gigabytes of memory. Now, this is an important thing that you want to look for if you are looking to have the longest possible record, meaning you would like to carry with you hours and hours of video. 256 gigabytes will definitely provide that for you. And now let's take a look at the Omni and the A810, which are my choices for those of you that want to spend a little bit more money on the dashcam. Now, the Omni is quite interesting because the bottom of it can turn, and even though you only have one camera, we can control it with the app, and next thing we know, now we can potentially record the left of the car, the right of the car, the interior of the car. So this has a tremendous amount of flexibility, even though it is only a one-channel dashcam. And don't worry if you're put off by the color, which I actually really like, they also have it in black as well. Now, the default position of where the camera is gonna point to is gonna be towards the front. So when you install it, the camera is gonna face the front of the vehicle and the screen is gonna face you. However, you are able to customize that position. If you wanna use this as a dedicated cabin camera, you can select on the app for the camera to always start facing you, or if you wanted to have it always face a particular side, you could select that. And parking monitoring is where it gets even more interesting, because this guy actually supports three types of parking monitoring: impact detection, time-lapse, but also motion detection. We know impact detection is gonna trigger the dashcam when somebody impacts our vehicle. Time-lapse is gonna record many hours of video and it's gonna compress that for us. But the motion detection, again, if somebody doesn't impact your vehicle and you wanna have that record of that person that's passing by, that can potentially be captured with motion detection. But because the bottom of it is robotic and can turn, they have programmed it so it makes an attempt to follow the subject that has triggered the motion detection, which I think is a great idea. Again, with one single camera, we have an immense amount of coverage. The Omni also supports voice commands and some very interesting ones, such as shoot to the left or shoot to the right, which could be convenient if you are driving and all of a sudden you need coverage on this side or that side. You can just say it and the dashcam is gonna turn and record it. You could even ask the dashcam to turn completely around to record the inside of the vehicle. Now, my only real gripe about this feature is that it only does it momentarily. When you tell it to either turn one side, the other, or to the cabin, it is gonna turn, but it is gonna eventually return back to its default position. I wish you could say the command and the dashcam will actually stay there until you tell it to return back to its default. However, again, I think it's still great flexibility for a dashcam that only has one camera. And as far as resolution, the Omni is only gonna record in full high definition. However, I think the video quality is definitely more than acceptable, especially with the flexibility of being able to turn. Because what's the point of having really good high definition if it's facing the incorrect side where the action is taking place? So the advantage of the robotic head, I think, definitely in some cases can be more than resolution itself. Now, as far as memory, there is no memory card bay, so you don't have to spend to buy a memory card for this. The memory is actually built in onto the Omni, so it comes in a couple different sizes: 32 gigabytes, 64 gigabytes, or 128 gigabytes. Now, don't worry too much about the fact that this doesn't support 256 gigabytes like this guy does, because remember, this guy is recording two cameras, the front and the rear, and it's recording at 2.5K, so that takes more space. So even though it only supports 128 gigabytes, you're only recording one camera and you're only recording in full high definition. So I think that's still a good amount of space if you decide to get the one with 128. And if you're trying to save a little bit on cost and you don't need that much memory, you could select either the 64GB, and if you're really on a budget, then go for the 32GB. Now let's take a look at this bad boy, the A810, which will have the highest price out of the 3 dashcams that I showed you today, but it is also gonna have the highest resolution, recording at 4K using the Sony Starvis 2 sensor. Now the Sony Starvis 2 sensor on this guy is different than the one on the A510. This one uses the IMX675 image sensor, and this one uses the IMX678 sensor, which is more capable than the sensor that's on here, so the images will be crisper, will be clearer, and yes, in 4K. And as far as the rear camera, it is gonna record in full high definition, just like the rear camera for the A510. Now for parking monitoring, this is where these things again are different. For parking monitoring, we know on here we get impact detection and time lapse. On here we get impact detection, time lapse, but also motion detection. Now that is kind of like the motion detection on the Omni, but on the A810, obviously there is no tracking. However, because somebody can potentially trigger that motion detection when they pass in front of the field of view of the dashcam, we can potentially have a record of that. I had viewers ask me, hey, I have somebody scratching the hood of my car. Now, if you pass by a car very lightly, you may accidentally scratch it and be so gentle in the process that the impact detection was never triggered, so there is no record of it. But if you have motion detection, if somebody passes in front of your vehicle and accidentally scratches it, that person passing in front of the camera will likely trigger the motion detection and will probably have a record of it. And as far as the maximum memory card size, that will be 256GB of memory. Now that is the same amount as the A510. Now the A510, remember, is recording at 2.5K, so the file sizes are gonna be smaller, so it is gonna be able to record more video in terms of hours of duration than this guy does, because 4K files are huge, so they're gonna fill up the memory card faster. Now don't worry too much about this, because dashcams use loop recording, which means that overwrite all their videos, leaving you with the freshest video available. And all 3 of them support loop recording, and also all 3 of them support G sensor. That means that if you were to get involved into a car crash and that car crash is hard enough to trigger that G sensor, that video of the car crash is gonna be locked and preserved, so it is not overwritten by loop recording. So remember, I place links in the description down below to all 3 of these dashcam, including links to the original reviews for each if you wanna see them in more detail. And I hope you found this video helpful in narrowing down your search for a dashcam. If you did and you wanna see more comparisons like this, either of a specific brand or a specific model against another model, let me know in the comments down below. If you found any part of this video helpful, make sure you hit the like button to support the channel, and stay tuned as I have a lot more dashcam reviews coming up. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll see you on the next one.